Genesis of the Remnant Lds Church. By what authority? A Council of High Priests. Part 2. On numerous occasions the scriptural record indicates that conditions required the ordering of the church from its wanderings into sinful ways. Moses, Melchisedec, and Alma. Individuals are often guilty of such mischief and also must be brought back to proper responses. Today the church needs correction and refocus. Are there those whose charge and duty as described in the law make them responsible for such correction? We need only to look at the scriptures for our answer. Section 122-10 of the Doctrine and Covenants clearly identifies the responsibility. Should the church fall into disorder, or any portion of it, it is the duty of the several quorums of the church, or any one of them to take measures to correct such disorder, through the advice and direction of the presidency, the 12, the 70, or a council of high priests, in case of emergency. In Brother Joseph's Letter of Instruction, ch. Volume 6, p. 573, he said, "But there is another provision of the law to which attention is called, that should the emergency arise by the death or defection of the incumbent of the presidency and the death or deposition of one of the remaining members of the quorum of presidency, leaving but one in minority, that it would be well for the church to remember and bring into operation, if serious necessity should occur." It is distinctly stated in the law that the High Council, presumably the standing High Council of the Church in Zion, is in equality in its decision with that of the Quorum of Presidency or that of the 12, supplying the third member of the threefold principle in spiritual control, if either of the quorums of the established order might be lost to the economy of the Church by death or defection of either one of the important component parts of the threefold cord, constituted by the unity of the Presidency, 12, and 70. This statement evidences the authority and the responsibility held by the high priest's office. Would it not be reasonable to consider that a council of high priests elected by the body of high priests from a church in an obvious emergency situation would have authority to act in such circumstance? Furthermore, when such a council of high priests has been upheld by a body of Melchisedec priesthood by a unanimous vote of the elders in assembly, does that not constitute authority? If a general conference of the members should also vote to approve such interim leadership, would that not constitute a valid authority? It is to be understood that when disorder occurs in the church during times when a legal, authoritative quorum structure of the church still functions, it is then the duty of the several quorums, or any one of them, to take measures to correct it, seeking the advice and direction of the leading quorums of the church. Presidency, 12, and 70, these several quorums identified in section 122 who were counseled to correct such disorder could be any quorum of the Melchisedec priesthood. Quorums exist only in organized church structure, that is, when presidency exists. The church was told in the Black Gum Experience of September 4, 1994, that I, the Lord, say unto you, that those men of the institutional church who have violated mine ordinances and sacraments have lost their authority. Since the leading quorums of the RLDS Church have promoted the changes in the ordinances and sacraments that have been witnessed in the institutional church, they have lost their authority, and although they exist in that body, they have no divine authority and cease to have godly sanction. Consequently, there is no quorum structure that can legally exist, and resultantly, there are no leading quorums from which advice and direction may be received. This creates a case of emergency, no quorum structure for the correction of disorder, and no leading authority from which to seek advice and direction. The Lord in His infinite wisdom has provided the mechanism for correction in such emergency, or a council of high priests, in the case of emergency. The Lord further indicates how such corrections are to be administered. The Scriptures and the Church Articles and Covenants, with the rules adopted by the Church, shall govern in procedure. D&C 122-10. Further, 104-7 states, the high priest and elder are to administer in spiritual things, agreeably to the covenants and commandments of the church, and they have a right to officiate in all these offices of the church when there are no higher authorities present. The situation exists now and has for several years, that there are no higher authorities present. Is it not reasonable, and in wisdom, that action be taken to correct disorder in the church? Is not instruction already given as to how to proceed and what procedures and principles shall govern in the correction of disorder? The answer is yes. In April of 1829 Oliver Cowdery was counseled as follows: I say unto you, that you must study it out in your mind, then you must ask me if it be right, and if it is right, I will cause that your bosom shall burn within you. Therefore, you shall feel that it is right, but if it be not right, you shall have no such feelings, but you shall have a stupor of thought, that shall cause you to forget the thing which is wrong, D and c. 9-3 AD, the men who brought forth the proclamation not only spent much time in prayer and fasting in their study, but also bear witness by their testimony that the test Oliver Cowdery was counseled to apply has been taken. They have not forgotten, but rather their hearts burn within them. They bear witness to all through their words that the proclamation was divinely inspired. To their testimony now nearly 130 Melchisedec men have added their signatures to the proclamation.